Hey guys, well, we're back out for another one. In the last video, I left you with the thought that 10% of the water holds 90% of the fish. So that leaves us with a question. How do we find that 10% of the water? Well, this is how I do it. All right, the first thing I do is I pull up a map. And you can see I've been running right down that break. Most of the time, 10% of the water is going to be some kind of a structure, whether that's a break line, a point that has a break line. I like to stay in 15 foot of water or less, especially on a new lake. That's a system that works really well for me. If I get into that deeper water, and you can catch fish on the bottom side of those breaks down in that 30, 35-ish range, but it seems that they're less active. Most of the time, the feeding, more active fish are going to be up in that shallower part of that break. I'm going to try and find the break lines that are rock. I like rock. White bass like rock, wipers like rock, walleye like rock, crappie like rock. So that's where I'm going to start. Rock really works well for me. If I pull up to a break line and I scan it with the down imaging or the sonar, and it doesn't come back red, if that's pinging soft like mud or some type of vegetation, I'm probably going to move on. When I'm looking at a new lake, I want to find rock. That's what I'm going to focus on. There's a rock ledge on the right, and then you can see the drop off on the left. So on the right portion of this, you can see that rock drop off on the very right side of the screen. And that's the kind of thing that I'm looking to troll. Now when I say troll, I'm not looking for a drop off that's a mile long. Okay, if I do find a drop off that's a mile long, I'm not gonna troll that whole thing. I'm gonna drive over and scan it just like this, and then I'm gonna find a spot that's maybe 20 or 30 yards long and troll over that. The spot that has the biggest rock, and ideally it would be a portion that has the biggest rock that actually shows fish. Now, in that big rock, if those fish are on the bottom, you won't necessarily see them. So you can't, even though you don't see any fish visibly on your sonar or your down imaging, doesn't mean they're not there. And there's some fish showing up on the left. Good shot at some fish on the left there. So if you've got big rock and don't see any fish, don't get discouraged of that. You're just gonna have to pick through it, because they can hide down in that rock. Your sonar won't pick it up. And if you troll over it, it's enough to entice them up out of there. High flavor, guys, just a little dinker. There you go, that's back to back little dinkers right there. See, isn't that just like a walleye? You try to make a video, they will leave you alone. All right, there's a brush on this drop off, guys, right there. On the left, you can see it really well. That's what brush looks like. That's sonar. On the right, you can see the brush starting to just show up. That's what brush looks like on side imaging. And like I said, on a new lake, I'm gonna stick completely to rock. That's what I'm gonna look for. If I find brush like this, I may mark it on my electronics or make a mental note of it. Once I'm through picking over all the rock that looks good to me on the map, I may very well move to brush and try that. On a lake that I've fished a lot and I know where the active rock is, I'll certainly go to brush. If I'm not picking anything up on rock, I'll go to the brush. That's on the left, on the white portion of that screen, you can see the fish down toward the bottom. Coming up, that's brush with some fish on it. On the left, you can see there's a hump coming up. There's some more fish on the left. This is all rock. See the good red signature coming back. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for. I'd like to have it a little shallower, but and on my right, on the right portion of this thing, it does come up way up. So, in fact, I'll drive over that and show you what that looks for. what that looks like. I think it comes up to around 11-ish, 9-ish feet, something like. There's the drop off right there. We're driving over it, and it comes right up. So on a new lake, I'm going to be up here in this shallow water. I'm not going to spend any time with the deeper water. But on a lake that I've fished a lot, I may try that deeper water, and there it comes back down. And I'm just weaving back and forth across this thing to show you. And on the right, you can see, look at that rock. That's the kind of rock right there that I'm going to hit. So that's what I'm looking for right there. And like I said, you're not always going to see fish on that thing. So they get down in that rock and the sonar can't define them. All right, guys, another nice crappie right here. This was as I was picking up to get out of here. That's a very thick 14-inch. Look at how tall that thing is. 14-incher. Looks like it's still got eggs. So, boy, it's a dandy though. Down here in 5 feet of water, out on a walleye flat. So, that's a dandy though. Good looking fish. I want to be 1 to 2 feet off the bottom, and you can see this this rod tip right here. Every now and then, it's going to tick the bottom. In Kansas, most of the lakes are not very clear, with the exception of Milford and Wilson. The rest of them are kind of dingy colored. So you've got to get that bait within about 1.5 foot of that fish, or they're never even going to know it's there. So now at Milford and Wilson, when it's in a clear cycle, if you get that bait within 3 feet of them, you're good. They'll chase it. They'll chase that thing down, but they have to know it's there. I'm constantly mending these lines. I'm constantly letting out some line, bringing in some line. I'm constantly mending those things to get it within that 1 to 1.5 foot range of the bottom. Well, there you go, guys. That's the system that I use to break down a new lake, or a lake that has come across some change. A big rainstorm, maybe a cold front came through, changed the fish's behavior. That's what I'll do. I always look for rock drop-offs, rocky points, that kind of thing. And then I'll troll across them. The only reason I'm trolling is because it's fast and effective. It's a good way to cover a lot of water. Now, once I find the fish, I'll vertical jig those guys. I'll drag some crawler harnesses across them, that kind of thing. So I'll use another tactic once I find them. I'll cast on them. I cast on fish a lot, and especially little pods of fish. If I'm after walleye, if I see a pod of 5 or 6 fish off to the side or straight under the boat, I'll stop the boat right on top of them and I'll cast on them. Now, I'm not going to spend all day. I'm going to make 3, 4, 5, 6 casts, maximum of 6 casts, and if I don't catch them, I'm gone. I'm going to the next. I'm going to constantly be moving. I'm not a very patient fisherman, so I'm constantly looking for those active fish. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. More content coming real soon. See ya.